I compare it when I talk to the fifth grade students. I say, if you go and buy a pair of shoes, you're going to try those shoes on. You're going to make sure that you buy shoes that fit your feet. And so we do the same thing. Everybody's made a little bit differently, and the instrument that fits you might be a different instrument than fits someone else. And so that's our goal, is to find an instrument that fits you perfectly and that will feel great playing.
You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we teach music educators how to build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. Let's get to it. Welcome to episode 15 of the Music Ed Mentor podcast. I am your host, as always, Elisa Jones. You can follow my music education blog at professionalmusiceducator.com or find me on Facebook at Professional Music Educator with Elisa Jones. Look, you and I both know that the savvy music teacher understands that if your program is an elective, you need to be doing everything in your power to ensure as many students are signing up as possible. If our programs aren't growing, then they aren't thriving, and that can affect not just our ability to create ensembles that sound amazing, but our budget and overall support from our administration. We know it's important to always be growing our program, not just so more students can participate in the powerful education that music provides, although that is a great incentive, but also because district and school budgets are often determined based on enrollment numbers. If our enrollment goes down, so can our financial resources, and that can mean disaster for us and our programs. So how can we attract students who are most likely to join our music classes, thrive while in them, and stick around for years to come? What should our timeline look like for recruiting, and what resources should we be using? Where can we find those resources so we don't have to come up with our own? What are our most powerful tools for growing our program? Is there one definitive thing we need to be doing year after year? And where can we find help to make it easier on ourselves? To help answer these questions, I've brought on Wendy Higdon, longtime middle-level band director and a fabulous teacher of teachers. Together, we share our best tips on what you have to do, the best time to do it, and how to reach every student in some way with a personalized invite that can't miss. But first, if you haven't had a chance to check out the recruiting tips on Smart Music's blog, I highly recommend that you pop over there at your earliest convenience and do a little search for all the advice collected from music educators around the country. We've added in the show notes a link to make it easy for you to do so. So smartmusic.com/blog, or click on the link in the show notes. You got that. This episode is also sponsored by the International Music Education Summit, a 100% online and live in-service training event coming to you this summer. To learn more, go to musicedsummit.org. That's musicedsummit.org. Now, here is my chat with Wendy.
I'm a middle school band director. This is my 27th year teaching middle school band. I teach in Carmel, Indiana at Creekside Middle School. And I'm a career middle school teacher. I've worked my entire career with grades 6 through 8, and I love it.
Well, that explains why we're such good friends. Because middle school band is where it's at, dude.
Oh, it totally is.
Don't tell my elementary students that. They'll be
I will keep
so
it a
offended.
secret. I'll keep it a secret.
Cool. So today we are just totally talking about recruiting, and I got Wendy on here just because she has a fabulous blog post on her website, On and Off the Podium, and it's all about recruiting. So Wendy, why don't you just walk us through kind of where do we start? Like if we haven't really done a lot of recruiting before, maybe our classes were something that was compunctory. What is the right word?
Compulsory?
Compulsory. Compunctory. We're recording this at night.
That's all right.
So, if our classes have been compulsory and now they're not, they're electives, how do we, go about it? How do you do it?
Well, I think the biggest piece of advice is that recruitment's not an event that happens on a specific day or during a specific week. Recruitment really is a process that you go through. And it's best if you can give yourself 4 to 6 months out to plan. Now, if you're listening to this, we're recording this at the end of November, and you're doing spring recruiting, you may not have that much time, but that's okay. You'll just be creating documents a little bit quicker and creating materials. I think that we have to look at recruitment as more than just getting kids excited. I think as music teachers, we're really, really good at relating to kids. We can talk to kids. We can get kids fired up about joining the program. We can get them excited about it. But recruitment is really a lot more than that. And I really found this out about 10 years ago. I did the demonstration concert for my elementary feeder students. And my school district, again, about 10 years ago, they made the decision that those kinds of events would not continue, that they were disruptive to instructional time and we needed to find another way. And when that first happened, I was crushed. I couldn't imagine how I was going to get kids excited about being in band if I couldn't talk to kids about what band was. And kind of once the initial shock wore off, I realized, okay, the decision's been made. I'm going to have to figure this out. And that's when I really set to work on all of the things that I do today. The good news is that our numbers here did not go down. The amazing news is that we actually have about 300 more students involved in band, orchestra, and choir at my school than we did 10 years ago when I was going out and doing the demonstration concerts and the classroom visits and what a lot of people think of as recruiting. So the process works, but it takes some work.
Well, I think that's, kind of to be expected, that everything takes work these days.
It does. I think that the key really centers around the communication that you do.
Well, and I think too that, people want to be involved in a successful program too. So I think the number one thing has to be having a quality program that kids want to be involved in, because if the kids in your current classes, they're going to be friends with kids who are younger than them and older than them, and they're going to spread the word that this is a quality program that kids want to be involved in. Don't you think that that's kind of the first step too?
Exactly. I'm reading a book right now called Contagious, and it talks about how things go viral. And one of the things that it talks about in this book is that word of mouth is about 10 times more effective than any kind of direct message. So if a parent talks to their neighbor or their friend and just raves about how wonderful the band program is and how much it's done for their child, that's much, much more meaningful. So you're absolutely right. Word of mouth is a huge part of recruitment, but it's one of those things that we don't have direct control over. You just have to make sure that your kids have great experiences and then encourage them to let everybody know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So right now, listeners, hit pause and go share this podcast with 5 friends. Get the word of mouth thing going on.
Yes, excellent. So, I think that I mentioned before that as music teachers, we're very good at connecting with kids, but we have to remember also to recruit the parent. Parents are the decision makers, and let's face it, you're a parent, I'm a parent. Parents are overwhelmed with everything that they have to do, not only in their own lives, but in the lives of their students. And it is so easy for a parent to miss an important communication. We've all dealt with those overflowing email inboxes or piles of paper coming home from school, if they come home at all, or, junk mail on the kitchen table. And so it's really important as we're communicating with parents to communicate more than once and to utilize a variety of formats.
That's awesome. That's awesome advice.
Some parents are going to respond to an email. Other parents want to go visit a web page. Other parents would prefer to attend a meeting. All of those things have the ability to reach a different set of parents. There's a basic premise of marketing that it takes 7 touches for someone to respond to your call of action. And basically what that means is that one communication, one email, or one flyer is not going to get the job done for the majority of families out there. So you have to be really proactive and communicate multiple times and in multiple formats.
So is that something that you refresh every year, or do you create it once and then use it for the next 3 or 4 years?
There's always tweaks that happen. I mean, I have my main documents that I use, but every year they go through an updating process and I tweak things. I'll change things up. If I have a new idea that I'll throw in, or I'll decide, oh gosh, this is really getting too long and parents aren't going to read this, so I need to cut it down. I'm constantly revising, but that skeleton is there. So after you've created it the first time, the next year is going to be easier.
Right. So number one, we have to have a high quality program that people want to be involved in. And we have to have an understanding of how to communicate with parents, that we need to, have many different formats that information is coming in. So that's kind of our base understanding. And you talked about, that you were kind of limited to your methods of recruitment. So we have to have kind of a framework ahead of time for that. So let's say that we already know all of that. Now, what is our next step?
Well, what I do is I initially will send out an email. I get all of the email addresses for our families, and I think that's pretty easy to do in today's technological, the things that we have going on technology-wise in our school districts. And so I'll send out an initial email. We will have also a school messenger that goes out from our building. One of the things that I do, because I can't do anything during the school day, we have a evening demonstration concert that's scheduled at the same time as the parent scheduling meeting with the administration. So the parents come to the meeting to talk to the administration about, okay, this is what your child's middle school schedule is going to be like. They bring their kids with them. We take the kids into another area and we do a little dog and pony show, so to speak, for the kids. And that works out really well. But I also keep this list of all of these potential students, all the 5th graders that are coming into my building. And as I get students signed up to come in and do an instrument fitting, I'll check them off my list. And so then I can just target additional communication to the people who haven't responded.
Smart. I love the idea of doubling up with events that are already happening in your school. Do they bring those 5th graders, do they bus them during the school day to give them a tour of the middle school or anything like that? I know that that's what my son's middle school did. And of course, he got to hear the band play at that performance or at that visit.
A lot of schools do that, and back when our district was allowing that, we did. They came over for a tour. They listened to the music groups perform. They did. They ate lunch at the school. They talked to the counselors. They talked to students. They did all of that. But it was a great idea, I thought, when it happened, is to kind of make it an event, something really to look forward to.
Okay, so you have your parent night and you get your list of incoming kids. So what's the next step?
Well, I'm constantly just kind of updating that list. I really involve my elementary music teachers. In our district, we have enough students and enough music classes and teachers that we don't cross buildings. So I don't go teach at the elementary schools. The high school directors don't teach at the middle schools. We're all kind of just housed in our own buildings, and that's where we stay. But I do communicate pretty regularly through this process with my elementary music teachers, and I copy the timeline and all the communications that I sent out to those ladies and gentlemen so that they know what's going on, so that they can reinforce it in their music classrooms for the fifth graders. I will send a small set of instruments out to the elementary schools. I don't send every instrument. I do a flute, clarinet, trumpet, trombone, and violin that the elementary music teachers can show or demonstrate or play or let the kids try whatever they feel comfortable with. So I do that. And then I'm also updating the elementary teachers. Okay, these are the students that have signed up to come and try instruments, or they said that they're interested in choir. If there's anybody on this list anybody that is not on this list that you think should be, would you please encourage them? So I try to enlist as best as possible my elementary teachers. And I also want to recognize that they're very, very busy people. They're seeing 800 students a week, and I try to make things as easy as I can for them. I don't want to create a lot of extra work for them, but I do appreciate everything that they can do. And so I try to keep them in the loop and informed.
Okay, so as an elementary teacher, I love spending time in the spring going through an instrument unit with my students. And I work with my school music dealer, my local music store, and they loan me instruments and I get to play them and I have the kids try them out. And I do it for every grade, every year that I've been teaching at this elementary school, so that by the time they get into fifth grade, and in our school, fifth grade is when they start band and it is compulsory. So every fifth grader has to play in the band. But by then they know what instrument they kind of like. I've been able to help guide them, and hopefully, they're all prepped for that fifth grade band experience. And then they continue on through middle school because they had such a good experience right from the start.
A lot of our elementary teachers do the same thing. They plan their instrument unit around the time that we're going through this same process, and it just makes it so seamless and so nice for the kids. Another thing that happens is our local symphony orchestra does a concert. In fact, it just happened a week or two ago. They do a concert during the school day, and every fifth grader in the district goes and hears the Carmel Symphony Orchestra perform. And so they get an additional experience through that as well. So there really are some things that are part of the elementary music curriculum that do support what we're doing and do help to introduce the students to some of the things that they'll have an opportunity to try once they get to middle school.
Awesome. So what is the difference between a testing night kind of thing and a fitting night, or do you kind of use those terms interchangeably? How do you handle deciding which kids can do what instrument, or if they're exploring it, how do you meet them face to face?
Well, I probably go a little bit more in depth than the average person with our instrument fittings. Over the years, I've called them a lot of different things, but I kind of landed on instrument fitting because I didn't want to use the word tryout, because come one, come all. We want everybody to be involved in music. We don't cut people from the program. We don't eliminate people. So I didn't want to use tryout. We used try on for a while, but that still had a little bit of a connotation about some people are going to make it and some people aren't. I don't like to use testing because that sounds like taking a test and something that's hard and scary. So we landed on instrument fitting, and I compare it when I talk to the fifth grade students. I say, if you go and buy a pair of shoes, you're going to try those shoes on. You're going to make sure that you buy shoes that fit your feet. And so we do the same thing. Everybody's made a little bit differently, and the instrument that fits you might be a different instrument than fits someone else. And so that's our goal, is to find an instrument that fits you perfectly and that will feel great playing.
That's a fabulous analogy. I love it. And how do you get out the word about the instrument fitting night? And do you bring in other people to help you with that? Or is it something that they schedule and do with you?
I definitely bring in other people to help with that, because I try to spend 5 to 10 minutes per instrument per child. So a child will be sitting with someone trying instruments for 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes. So we see about 300 kids for instrument fittings a year. and we do that all in 3 nights. So I usually have about 12 helpers, usually 8 in the band room and 4 in the orchestra room. And we get the word out just in the same information where we send, we inform the parents about the program. So that initial email has a link to an online sign up. I just do that in Google Forms, and that they can go into the Google form and they can sign up for a specific time that they want to come in for their instrument fitting. They can schedule it right then and there. They can tell us what instruments their child is interested in trying, but we don't lock them into that. So if the instruments that the child selected either aren't working well for that child, or the child says, "What's that? Can I try that?" The answer is always yes. So we do that all through, again, through that initial communication. It's part of the presentation that our administrators do when they meet with the parents about scheduling. It's part of when we meet with the students when they come that night. I'll send, again, there will be social media posts, there will be emails, there will be flyers in the elementary schools. The elementary teachers are talking about it. It's kind of, you hit them from every angle so that you make sure that you're not standing talking to a parent that said, "Well, we never heard anything about this." That's the worst thing. I don't want that. So I do a lot of communication.
How do you come up with your messaging for your emails and your letters and your social media posts? Like, I always had this great idea to survey my current students at the end of the year and ask them for why they loved music class. And so I could use that for messaging. But how do you do it?
Well, I do that as well. One of the things that I love to do, our beginners are 6th graders. And so we'll probably do this either they have their first concert next week. So probably but sometime between that concert and before we leave for winter break, I'll have them write out something, my name is whatever their name is, and I play list your instrument, and then I love band because, and then they can write something on, and we put them on colored paper. We hang them up in the hallways. So when the kids come in, they can look at those and they can see, "Oh, I know them. They live in my neighborhood," or "They went to my school last year," and they can start to make that connection. We've also done the same thing with some videos where we have the kids, it's so easy with iMovie and the different programs that are out there that you can make a video pretty easily, even if you don't have a lot of expertise. And so we'll have the kids talk about why they love band or orchestra or choir. In fact, our local music store, they saw what we were doing last year, and they actually came out. They brought someone out to professionally film some of our kids and made those public, some of the videos of our kids talking about what they loved about band. So definitely I do that. I think that that's so important. That, again, that's that word of mouth from kid to kid.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, my younger kids of my own are going to do band because their older sister is absolutely obsessed with it. So I can't even blame myself for being a music teacher. It's totally the big sisters converting the younger children. But I'm so glad you brought up video, because when I was teaching junior high band and orchestra, I did the demonstration concerts. I took my advanced band and orchestra to the schools, to the elementary schools. It was actually part of their, incentive for being in that band or orchestra. Every year in the spring, we would go and perform and demonstrate the instruments for the kids at the elementary schools. And when I quit teaching to stay at home and open my own private lesson studio, the teacher who took over after me just started doing videos. So I was like, "Well, do you still, take the kids around to the elementary schools? They always love doing that." And he's like, No, we just do a video now. We just do a video, and I go to the schools and play the video for these incoming kids. And I was like, "Well, that's so boring."
Yeah.
But if it works, some people are you can make some really emotionally provocative videos that are going to make kids want to be in your class.
You can. And what I do is I will put some of those videos on. I have a website that we place all of our information on. And so some of those videos that I have made over the years, I've put on there. I've got some short clips of our band performing, our orchestra performing, our choir performing, so that they can see that. And then I also use a lot of the videos from Be Part of the Music, where they demonstrate each of the instruments. And so if a kid doesn't know what a bassoon is, they can go and watch a 2-minute video of someone talking about and playing the bassoon. And all of those on Be Part of Music are free.
Yeah, they have some great resources on there. And I actually ordered a packet of, not recruiting cards, but just like informational brochures and put them in the front office at my school. My classes are all compulsory. Everybody in elementary school takes my class. But I want it for advocacy purposes too. Right. So anyway.
And there's some great advocacy things on that website too. And ideas for, you asked me earlier, and I don't think I actually answered it. How do I come up with what I put in my letters? There's a lot of good talking points on the Be Part of the Music website. I think that you have to know your community. If you live in a community where the majority of your graduates, high school graduates, go to college, then maybe you want to put in something about how music students tend to have higher scores on the SAT and the ACT. If you live in a community where sports is king, and that's every kid's dream, is to be on the high school team, you can talk about, for example, we had 159 of our student musicians at my school that were in a fall sport, just in a fall sport. So we can, you can kind of tailor your comments and some of your little talking points to what is important and valued in your school district and in your community. And I think that makes a huge difference.
That's brilliant. I love it. So how do the high schools that your middle school kids feed into, how do they recruit your middle school kids?
They don't do a full-blown formal recruitment process. We have a lot of transitional type things that we do. For example, in the spring, they have a get to know you marching band rehearsal where kids can just come and see what it is and just try it out for a couple of hours before they sign up. We do a lot of, hey, come over and rehearse our middle school band and work with them on, this piece that the kids are playing at contest. We try to find those connections because we're not assigned to team teach with the high school people. We have to work a little bit harder so that our kids know them, but we do a lot of things. We do a summer band program where all of the directors from all 3 of our middle schools teach together in the summer program. And also a couple of the high school teachers will teach as part of that middle school summer band program. We're constantly supporting one another. The high school was really great this fall, for example, sending over videos of the marching band. Our high school marching band just won Grand Nationals. They were the Bands of America Grand National champion this year. And so, we really use that to kind of get the kids excited. And so they would send over videos of their Grand Nationals performance that the kids could watch, or they make videos throughout the season talking about the band family and how close the kids come, or striving for excellence, or whatever it is, and we share those with our students as well. So we really work hard to support the program from our side, the high school program from our side. And then a couple of our middle school directors, there's 6 middle school band directors in my district, and a couple of those directors also are on staff with the high school marching band. So then there's that connection as they carry over, as the students transition from 8th to 9th grade. Oh, I already know these people because they were my middle school band director, and here they're still here and can help me make a connection as I join the high school program.
Nice. Have you ever done a side-by-side concert, like where the middle school kids get to sit on stage and play with the high school kids?
Our program has grown so large that the things that were like that we used to do, where we had a middle school district band festival, we've had to move away from. The last year that we did anything like that, we had 1,600 band students, grades 6 through 12, performing together. We called it Extravaganza.
Whoa.
And all 1,600 kids actually performed together. But it was so challenging logistically that
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
that we only did that for 2 years. So just because of the size of our program, it's challenging. But when we can find those opportunities, we do. Kind of a cool thing that's happening in January, we have our state MEA conference, and it just so happens that that my band, as well as 2 of our high school bands, were all invited to perform. So rather than just each of us doing our own individual concerts, we're going to do a big thing together and talk a little bit about how we support one another and how our program has evolved over the years to bring those middle school kids up into the high school, and how we support each other, kind of what we're talking about right now. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Our state conference has never seen anything like this before, so we're pretty excited about it.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I want to backtrack just a little bit because I was just reviewing your ultimate recruiting checklist, and you mark the time out not from your concert or from your fitting nights, but from scheduling. So tell me why you do it that way. Well,
at some point, the kids have to sign up for the class. And so that's kind of my D-Day. That's the all important day. And so I backwards schedule from that point. So for us, our kids actually sign up for their 6th grade classes around February 15th. And so I want to do my instrument fittings like in the week to 2 weeks before they sign up for classes. I want that experience to be fresh in their minds. I want them to, have just experienced the excitement of finding this instrument and getting to make some sounds on this instrument. And I want that to be fresh in their minds so that they're going to sign up for the class. So working backwards from that, then we have our information that goes out in the, three-ish weeks before that, 3 to 4 weeks. We do our demonstration concert. We have an opportunity for the kids to sign up for their appointments. Everything works backwards from that scheduling date because that's when the kids have to make the decision.
Smart. I love it. Don't give them any time to
find something else to take.
Yeah, exactly that.
We have so many electives available to our kids, which is great, but we're all competing for the same kids. And so I really don't want that experience to have time to just kind of fade into the distant memory. I want that to be fresh as they're making those choices.
So do you schedule rental instrument nights or instrument rental nights with your local music store? Do you bring them in and then invite the parents that they can all come to the school to rent the instrument? Or do you send them all to the music store?
No, I have the music store comes here. I actually do that after they've signed up for scheduling. I think that, because we schedule so early, because kids are choosing their courses in February of their 5th grade year, it's kind of hard to think about 6th grade when it's just February.
Yikes. Yeah, totally.
So I schedule my instrument rental night in April after spring break, where it's a little bit closer to the time to actually start band. And so we have the parents come in, and I do about a 20-minute presentation and talk about our program, talk about our teachers, try to address some of those initial questions that parents have, like what kind of a commitment is my child making, and what kind of a commitment am I making as a parent, and who are you teachers, and I'm worried because I've never had a kid in middle school before, and so is this all going to be okay? And so I really try to give the parents enough information that, kind of calm some of those fears, especially for first-time middle school parents or first-time band parents. So I do about 20 minutes, and then our rep from the music store does about 20 minutes, and then they have people out in the cafeteria, and they can just we actually fill out the contract as we go through the meeting, and they can just go and hand the contract off at one of the tables with one of the music store folks. And then the instruments are delivered for the first day of band.
And this is totally, I mean, it's going to sound random, but do you have more than one music store in your town? Do you share the love between them, or how does that work?
There are more music stores, but we deal exclusively with Page's Music out of Indianapolis.
And none of the other music stores complain?
Well, not anymore. Really, Page's is in business just for school music. That's all they do. They don't deal with guitars or keyboards or anything like that. And most of the other music stores in town have a broader sales base, and they're so much smaller. So really, it's very, very difficult for them to come close to competing with what Pages is able to offer us.
Right.
So it hasn't been an issue.
I just know when, where I'm from in the Salt Lake and Utah valleys, in that, Salt Lake suburb area, there are 2 or 3 music stores that all compete really heavily for that rental market. And one store will, if you don't invite them into your rental night, they will actually call up the school district and make a fuss about it and threaten to sue that you are not sharing the love to those different music stores. So, and that was really hard for me because one of those music stores I had worked for 6 years,
Right.
And so when I became a first-time teacher and really got into the recruiting and, all of that, I still felt compelled to invite in the competition as well. So I guess that's just something that you need to be aware of if you don't already have kind of an exclusive relationship with the blessing of your school district and principal and everything to, don't be afraid to have a little competition rental night. It can be hard for your parents, but, it's sometimes legally what you have to do.
I think, I dealt with that a little bit early in my career. Certainly I had 2 music stores that this was in a different school district that wanted to call on me. And, I think sometimes, when you're in that kind of situation, you do have to look at it from all angles. Legally, do you have to invite more than one? Can you have an exclusive arrangement? And that would be something that, definitely you would go to your administration and ask for clarification on. I wouldn't, as a band director or an orchestra director, I wouldn't try to make that decision by myself. Involve your administration and get their take on it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know with my principal, when I told them that I was going to be ordering recorders, and that's not a huge bill or anything, but I just wanted to make sure, is it okay if I just use this one store, Again, I think that this is me, on my little soapbox, but having a good relationship with your music stores and the people who service you as a director is super invaluable. You just really can't beat it.
There are so many things that your local music store can do to help you with your recruitment. First of all, they assist with recruitments in, dozens of schools, and they've seen all the great ideas that everybody else has, and they're here to help you. They want you to be successful in your recruitment because that's good business for them. And my advice would be, don't be afraid to ask for something. If your school district says we can't pay for postage to send out your mailing, ask your local music store if they will pay for the postage. They may very well say yes. If you need instruments to do instrument fittings or to send out to elementary schools or what have it, ask the question. The worst thing that can happen is they could say, no, we can't do that. But more often than not, I think that your local music stores really do want to be there in your court and really help you have a successful recruitment. So lean on them for advice and for support.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, any final tips other than everybody needs to get over to your blog post and check out your very detailed checklist, and that's on and off the podium, right? And it's
On and off the
filed under
podium.com.
recruitment. So everybody needs to go check that out. But any final tips?
Well, I think the recruitment is one of those things that sometimes we feel like I'm too busy with my current students. I don't have time to spend a lot of time on this. But recruitment is the lifeblood of your program. And if you don't recruit, you're going to recruit yourself right out of a job, which is never good. But even more important than that, if we truly believe as music educators that being part of the band, being part of the orchestra, being part of the choir is good for kids, then it's our responsibility to make sure that we've extended an invitation for every child we can reach to come and join our program. It's kind of one of the most important things that we do that's not a direct teaching of students. And if we can kind of look at it from that perspective, then hopefully the time that you spend on recruitment won't seem so cumbersome or difficult. It could be exciting.
I think it's totally exciting, not just because I have kind of this, marketing, sales kind of background, but those kids who are so enthusiastic, who are so excited to put that instrument in their hands. And then when they make that sound the first time, it's just adorable to watch that happen. And then, and that's your first contact with that kid who may be your student for the next 3 or 4 years. And, it's just a valuable, exciting time.
Well, and it's, when you put your best foot forward in your recruitment process, not only do you get to see those awesome moments with the students, but you're starting to develop a relationship with their parents as well. And if the parents are impressed with the amount of time that you spend with their child before they've even joined your program, you're off on the right foot.
And I think all of this is great advice too for us elementary teachers who, we don't have to recruit. Everybody has to come to our classes. But if we can help support those programs that we feed into, and you never know when a job isn't going to work out for you anymore and you get to go take a different job, and that one will require recruiting. So for those listeners who are like, well, I don't have to recruit, it's still great information. And all of this transfers exactly over to advocacy for your program as well.
And your beginning band directors, your beginning orchestra directors, I know that they would appreciate your support in any way that you can give it if you're elementary or high school. It's a big undertaking, and we all benefit when kids are involved in music.
I hope you were able to catch more than a few helpful points in that episode to get you off on the right foot for your recruiting blitz this year. Our next episode features the eminent Scott Lang as we talk about retention and his thoughts on recruiting too. You might be surprised. I also have to apologize. We don't have our usual freebie download for you this week, and for a good reason. I was going to create some awesome, helpful templates for you, but I can't imagine being able to make anything as thorough as what they already offer on bepartofthemusic.org. You can also grab Wendy's checklist off her website. Both links are in the show notes for this episode, which you can find on the smartmusic.com blog or on my website, professionalmusiceducator.com/podcast. Remember to check out musicedsummit.org to learn more about the International Music Education Summit, and check out the smartmusic.com blog for more ideas on recruiting and retention. There is so much awesome stuff out there for you, my friends. Remember to share, like, and rate this episode and this podcast so we can get this great information and education out to more music educators like you. Friends, you don't ever have to feel at a loss if you know where to look. Until next time, keep being totally awesome music educators, keep doing all the good work, stay positive, and keep teaching on.